You like beer enough to make it yourself? Well, come on in. Celeste Beatty has the pot of water boiling for a homemade batch of beer, craft beer. It is the hottest thing going.
So the main thing you want to do is use this to put the grains inside of.
Terrific.
And that helps like a tea bag.
How long have you been making beer?
I've been making beer for about 17 years.
See that? It's hops in pellet form. Hops is what gives beer its flavor and aroma. She teaches people how to make beer, and I'm getting a real education. I add the hops to the boiling water. We are making 5 batches of India Pale Ale, commonly known as IPA. I stir. We're also going to add in barley, more hops. This is a process.
Making a beer is like making a soup. You get to make the soup, but beer requires a fermentation period.
This is where the beer gets fermented initially. This batch was made last week. It is infused with truffle paste thanks to Urbani Truffles, a company from Italy in the business of coming up with creative ways to enjoy truffles. This truffles-infused beer is very early in its fermentation process. If this has a feeling of Prohibition days, don't worry. What we're doing in this Harlem kitchen is perfectly legal. In fact, back in the 1970s, then-President Jimmy Carter made it so by law.
That allowed people to make small batches of beer and wine in their homes.
And speaking of presidents, did you know President Obama brews beer? White House Honey Ale.
I think a lot of people will be a little amazed to know that the president is also a home brewer.
Yes, the president is a home brewer, and he's one of the first presidents of the United States to actually brew beer. And I think he is the first to actually brew beer in the White House. They also grow some of their own hops in the backyard, as we do here.
Our process continues. Celeste sometimes just grabs seasonings to experiment with flavor.
Just common everyday stuff we have in our cabinets. Nutmeg.
That sounds delicious.
And coriander. What else do we add? Cumin. You can use some of the spices that you have in your own kitchen. I think it's time for us to add some other stuff there.
We take all the hops and grain that have been boiled in that giant tea bag, squeeze it. The liquid left behind, known as wort, is what we ferment to make our beer. What we're brewing today, we can't drink for about a month. It is Celeste Beatty's love of beer and love of Harlem that has resulted in her starting the Harlem Brewing Company, beer that can be found at various restaurants and supermarkets in Harlem. She makes the test batches at home, and then a brewery bottles 2 types, Sugarhill Golden Ale and Harlem Renaissance Wit. She also ships her beer around the world, representing for Harlem.
That we're launching the Entertainer IPA. That's a tribute to Scott Joplin. My great-great-grandparents were ragtime musicians. Scott Joplin performed with them. Scott Joplin has a very deep history here in Harlem. He lived in 3 or 4 different buildings here in Harlem. We want to pay tribute to the history. The whole idea or the whole spirit of the brand is really about celebrating Harlem. Harlem growing up was like our Great Wall, our Mecca, our wall, our place that we sort of look to for inspiration. And communities around the country and around the world look to Harlem. So in deciding to create a beer that was going to be a banner related to the neighborhood.
She plans to open a brewery right here in Harlem and started a GoFundMe campaign to help it happen. On this night, she is offering her beer and a special treat of truffles to guests at Sedapani's restaurant in Harlem. The guests have beer cocktails and taste truffles in the delicious dishes created for the night.
Very fantastic. Thumbs up, thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Absolutely.
Truffles, that elusive mushroom, average cost $3,000 to $4,000 a pound, dug up in the forest in Italy. And the truffles they are enjoying tonight were in the ground in Italy less than 36 hours ago.
What we are trying to do is to approach different markets, even markets that before they were a little bit skeptical about it, Now we created a lot of different products and a lot of different things with truffle that are much more affordable, and they are also truffle is becoming much more versatile.
Truffles and sea salt, olive oil, tomato paste. Even as Celeste showed, she used truffle paste in a specially brewed truffles-infused craft beer.
The evening topped off with beer from Harlem to drink and meals with truffles to enjoy. It's a dining experience here in Harlem that arrived from continents away.
A feeling of togetherness in a tall glass, her passion for beer and Harlem history.
I have to do more than just make beer. I have to carry that message, and I have to encourage people to come to Harlem. And everything that we do with our businesses, I believe we have to reach back and make sure we honor that history and make sure we preserve it.